With Peter Milton Walsh. Can I call you an old friend, Peter?
You can, David.
And do we call you the apartments or?
Yeah. That's the name that I use. Yeah. People know the apartments. They don't know Peter Milton Walsh.
Okay. So here we are in your music room here, with Hall of Fame guitars behind us. Because we're standing up, I thought we could talk about what we're wearing here.
Okay.
What have you got on today, Peter?
Some black desert boots, Dave. These are from a French supermarket, jeans. Yeah.
Come on, French supermarket. Come on.
Monoprix. Possibly an Edward Fox foulard, as you would call it, Dave.
Wow, foulard. This is very highfalutin here. This will impress people.
Yeah, it's in a brown suede coat. That's it, David.
And the neckwear is
that's my foulard.
Foulard. Oh yes, sorry.
Yeah, Edward Fox.
And Claire, Claire, you've got your. I love Tupperware. I'm a Tupperware lady badge.
I'm a Tupperware lady badge. I have to wear that, and just sort of casual.
Yeah. And we're close to the Sydney flight path, where you can hear the plane going overhead.
Yes.
Now, Peter, we've been talking upstairs, and Claire and I have just been so filled with jealousy about your tales of touring in provincial France.
Yes.
You are such a you've experienced this penetration into the French culture and mind.
Yeah.
Unlike any others.
Yeah. Well, look, I'm sure. Yeah. It's good, but the French that's big for the apartments. But I think I told you this. Played a show with when I was with Laughing Clowns in Berlin, and it's Sonic Youth. I think either supported us or we supported them, or something like that. And Thurston Moore said to me that Sonic Youth were very big in the beer countries, and he said not so much in the wine countries. And I'd never heard this expression before. I didn't know what it meant. And the beer countries were Germany, England, the USA, Australia, and he said not so good in the wine countries. And I thought at the time, I wouldn't mind being popular in the wine countries because I stood no chance in hell of being popular in the beer countries. But also it was a loudness thing as well. But anyway, so the wine countries, the apartments have been embraced. Spain, Portugal, Italy, France, Mexico. Maybe that's more beer drinking, but
That's such a great big city New York opinion, don't you think?
It is. That's
We're in
fantastic.
beer and wine countries.
Yeah. It's a good division.
You come from out of Brisbane, and Claire and I come from South Australia.
Yes.
We're here in Sydney. Claire and I live in Melbourne, but we consider ourselves South Australian in many ways.
Especially when we go there.
Yes. Are you a Brisbane person in Sydney?
Look, I'm, as Graham Greene used to say, England made me. I think Brisbane made me. I was born here. I was born at Camperdown, which is about 10 minutes away. And we moved to Brisbane when I was 4, and I left Brisbane when I was 20, 21, something like that. So in many ways, Brisbane did make me. And, that Brisbane is long gone because it was isolated. Everything was filtered before it got there. So, age of plenty that we live in now, that wasn't the case. It was the age of scarcity. So, you'd watch 2 television channels or 3 television channels. I used to listen to the radio. I think the isolation of it all was fantastic because you get these things that you're interested in and you think there's maybe 10 people like you in the world. And yeah, I think it just jacks up the intensity when you grow up in an isolated kind of place. Whereas when I moved to New York, I would meet people who grew up there, and for them, they could open the door and everything was available to them, and they were not as they didn't seem to be as passionate about things as the people that I knew that never had that waiting for them. You know.
Had to seek everything out.
Yeah.
So, did you come into New York? Were you impressed by those emphatic New York big city opinions that people had? And did you have any of your own to match it? Or were you like Joe Buck from Midnight Cowboy?
Yeah. Look, I was drawn to New York the same way that everybody else was drawn to New York. You know, like you just saw it and heard about it. It was in so many songs, and movies. And I really loved Billy Wilder, and he'd made a great movie called The Apartment, which at the time, I think, he said, you know, New York is a big city of 8 million people, you know, and it was 1960. And that, anyway, there was it just had a feeling about it, and I wanted to experience it. And, you know, like television had, you know, Broadway looked so medieval. Bob Dylan had, you know, I'm going back to New York City, I do believe I've had enough. Leonard Cohen had New York is cold, but I like where I'm living. The music on Clinton Street all through the evening. All these things sort of played into, you know, and Midnight Cowboy, you know, there were just so many New York things. And growing up in Brisbane, where that was never likely to be anything I ever encountered, I really did want to go there. So I felt like very lucky that I got a chance to go there.
And we met Milton Walsh when he was in early 80s when we were living in Pran in the share house. And I think you came to town with the Laughing Clowns or Out of Nowhere.
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah. I had a band called Out of Nowhere. After I broke up the Apartments, I had the Apartments kind of came to an end. The Apartments began in October 78 and were finished in October 79. And
but you still shield yourself with the Apartments as a entity.
Yeah, well,
that's larger than yourself.
Yeah. Well, I always think like the music that I make is a band sound. It's not like a solo sort of sound. And I just never saw any particular reason to say it was, you know, me and the Apartments, because I always felt like the Apartments was me anyway. So, and certainly more people would know the name of the Apartments than me. So, you know, yeah, I was happy to be the Apartments. But yeah, so I had a different band then, Out of Nowhere, and that was like I had a cellist and bass player, trumpeter, drummer. Jeffrey Wegner was playing drums, and no bass player. So you know, it was an interesting band. Yeah, and that's when I first toured Melbourne, and then I toured with Laughing Clowns because I was living in New York, 83, and Ed wrote to me, and I still have this aerogram, and he was reforming Laughing Clowns, and he said he was going to make it a much more primitive sounding band than it had been because it had developed a bit from the first Laughing Clowns, and I love the sound of that. I just love the sound of we'll do something more stripped back, bass, guitar, drums and saxophone. And so, I went to England and he also said, look, we're going to do an English tour, a European tour, Australian tour. And we'll record an album in Australia, do a European tour, and then you can go back to New York. It's only 12 months, and he also said, we'll do your songs as well. And I knew that because I'm a songwriter. I've run a band. I know what it's like. That wasn't going to happen.
Do you remember that place, Claire? It was a Thomas Street, Prahran.
Oh, right near the there was an art school.
Prahran College.
Prahran College, just across the road. Yeah, lots of people went.
We were happily having lunch or something, and Milton Walsh and Martin Hardy barged in, and probably with Bob, who was the
Gosford.
Bob Gosford, and put on a record or something, just as if we weren't there. It was very rude.
That's it. Yeah. Quite out of character, David.
Bob Gosford and Martin Hardy both kind of became obsessed with Aboriginal Indigenous culture and
that's true.
And put themselves through law school and moved up to Darwin.
Toured with the Warumpi band, didn't they? Extensively, I think. Was that the Warumpi band? Yeah.
And occasionally still see Martin around, and he's very argumentative online.
Right. Yeah.
But I refrain from arguing with Martin.
I don't have any capacity for argument, so I just don't get into. I don't get into it. I like an ex cathedra sort of announcement. Like that band was shit. I'm happy to say that, but I'm not going to argue about it.
What about being in a band? Do you like being in a band where you're not so much the chief, like you said, you were in the Laughing Clowns?
Oh, yeah, that was great. It was fantastic. But I think it was kind of good with Ed because I recognised the burden that's on the main person. And in many ways, that whole band did revolve around Ed as it should have. And it was just when I consider it, I just get a letter saying, do you want to join us for a year? We're doing all these tours, England, Europe, Australia, Europe. I feel like, the man that broke the bank at Monte Carlo. It was a great year,
For a brief period, we were in a band with Peter for 2 or 3 gigs, I think, in London.
Yes.
It was trying to forget.
After Chris Walsh left, we had no bass in the Moodus, and it was Peter Milton Walsh on guitar and a beautiful kind of white.
Yeah, it was a white
body.
Maton. Yeah,
Was it a Maton?
Yeah, it was a Maton.
Beautiful.
Yeah, semi-acoustic. Yeah, and a Fender Twin, and those two
sounded
together.
great. I thought it was a new beginning. I thought, wow, we've cracked it.
Yeah, no, it was very, very, very fierce. I had friends of the Mary chain telling me how fabulous it was, but
Played a couple of your songs.
Really?
David, I'm not going to discuss the termination of my contract with the Dave Graney band because I've been in the House of Wounded Feelings ever since.
I thought you didn't want to be in the band. And you were waiting for me or Claire to say, you're in the band.
No.
One of those situations. I've heard of that before.
Anyway, besides that, we'll leave all that open wound there.
Yeah.
With your relationship with Ed, has it evolved, or are you forever in his? Is he forever the one who favoured you and blessed you and taught you all that you know?
Look, it was. I got on well with Ed from the first time that I met him. The first time that I met him, we discovered we both loved Dusty Springfield, Scott Walker, Sinatra. He had vinyl of Dusty in Memphis, and I never had it on vinyl because it was like discontinued. Like within about a year, it was discontinued. I had it on a cassette, but so we had these things in common, and we have always gotten on well, and we still keep in touch. And yeah, he was great. That was a great band to play with, you know, because it was Jeffrey Wegner on drums, Louise on saxophone, I was playing bass, and Ed on guitar. So,
and you'd signed on for a definite period of time.
Yeah. It was like you can get back to your life in New York. But what happened was that I came out here to Australia, and while we were on tour, I had a whole bunch of songs that I'd written in New York. So I released one of them, which was called All You Wanted. And then Jeff Travis, who was running Rough Trade, he heard that single and he got in touch and said, I want to put that out on Rough Trade as a single in England. And I said, well, actually, maybe I've got an album. Do you want to hear the demos for the album? And he said, yeah, that's a better idea, you know. So I sent him the demos and he signed me to Rough Trade. So within like that year, I'd left the Clowns and then I was in England on Rough Trade. And it was a good period of time to be on Rough Trade as well.
Was it hard to move out of New York though?
Well, no, look, it was like the first time I'd ever been in kind of like the business of being in a band, because I had a record contract and you know, publishing and stuff like that. So I found it all a bit, you know, I don't think I really had a talent for that part of I probably would have been happy just writing songs, but you couldn't just write songs anymore. That world had disappeared. And you had to be in a band. So it was a wild period of time though, and of course, you know, being on Rough Trade was good because then I released my first album, and it was that album that just made an impact in places I never thought that I would get to. You know, it's like
That's great.
yeah.
This is all intense period of time we all spent in London and got to know each other in close quarters. And you sang with Peter on the Shyest
That's
Time
right,
as well.
Yeah, that recording,
With Peter O'Doherty.
Was he
producing it?
Yeah.
Yeah. He came to town.
Yeah, lovely chap.
Yeah, and Victor Van, because he had produced All You Wanted, which was the single that Rough Trade that started the Rough Trade thing for me. And he was in town, and I had this song which I thought was kind of a pop song, and asked him, "Do you want to come along and, you know, we'll record it?" And
what studio was it, Pete? Do you remember?
Somewhere in King's Cross, or
right, yeah, it was Central, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Usually they're out in the sticks somewhere.
Yeah. No, it was yeah. And Victor was engineering as well, so yeah, it was good. It was, and then that song, Tarquin Gotch, who was the music supervisor for John Hughes, and John Hughes was this American teenage movie maker, and he'd done a movie called Pretty in Pink and
Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Yeah, The Breakfast Club.
Tarquin
was the guy's name. Well, he came into Rough Trade and said to Jeff Travis, "I want to hear everything that you have planned to release, you know, singles. I need to hear it." And from that batch of things, he heard The Shyest Time, and then so The Shyest Time got into that John Hughes movie. And at the time, like when I met him, he was like, Cambridge educated.
Tarquin.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I wouldn't have guessed that.
Yeah. Class warrior. He said, "Oh, look, you know, this has to be the single for the movie, you know, blah blah." And he said, "You know, you have to, when you're thinking about, you know, whether you want to do this, just think, you know, Psychedelic Furs, did Pretty in Pink, Simple in Minds, did Don't Forget About Me, and, you know, so it an alluring idea, because I was at the bottom of nowhere financially in England, because I wasn't working. Like when I've always worked, had day jobs, and when I was in England, I didn't have a day job, so I was running out of my rough trade. Put me on salary for 6 months, gave me a place to stay with Gina Birch from the Raincoats and Mayo Thompson from Red Crayola in Paddington, which was
This has been such an avalanche of name dropping from Peter,
this is awesome.
hasn't it?
Yeah, cool. I feel like Joan Didion. I'm dropping so many names here. Patti Smith.
Started out with Graham Greene and led to Tarquin.
I know. Yeah. Well, look. A friend of mine told me that it's not a good look to always be name dropping. It's actually Patti Smith who said that to Dave.
We have such a rich history together. I think this is a good glimpse into past times.
Yes.
It's June 2026. What are the apartments? What are you doing for the apartments right now?
Well, last September released a new album. That's what the music is for, and I've just came back from a tour of France.
It's a rapturous reception.
Yeah. Well, look, it was. I mean, look.
Bastard.
Jealous.
One of the good things about releasing, it's a casino like playing in a band. So, you just never know what's going to work and what isn't going to work. And one of the strange things that happened with this album was that even though it was released on a French label, so there was no international, publicity angle, these writers from, like Bandcamp Brooklyn, the Brooklyn guy that runs Bandcamp's album of the week thing, picked up on it and ran it as their album of the week. And those men's magazines in England like Uncut and Mojo, they
Readers' Wives.
Those journalists from there got in touch and said, look, we want to review it and stuff like that. So it was like one of these records that you can't tell how things are going to go, but it made more impact than any record I've released before. So this time when we went to France, like Paris was sold out 2 months in advance, and we just did like 10 shows around the country, and I had some time off last year, so I didn't really want to have any other time, so we just flew in, did the shows and flew out. But this time I took 2 Australians with me, and it was just Australians, 3 Australians, trumpet and guitar and piano, and so that was new for me, because normally I throw together a band, English drummer, French players, I mix it up, but they're Europeans, and normally there hasn't been Australians for quite some time.
You would have to then rehearse it up.
Yeah, see, that's the thing.
That's the bummer, isn't it?
I used to get there, and you've got 2 days to rehearse, and then bang, you're in. And when you're doing things as a band, naturally, people have in their heads the bands that they've just seen, and most of the bands that people have just seen are working bands that have been like, Pulp have been playing 126 shows before they play the Olympia in Paris, the Bad Seeds. So you're constantly up against these bands that have the music in their bloodstream and it's road tested and all that sort of stuff. And I'm going over there and I'm rehearsing for 2 days, maybe 8, 12 hours, bang, and then go out and almost pretend to be a band. Whereas this time, taking the Jeffrey, who was the trumpet player and flugelhorn player, and Tim, who was the piano player and the guitarist, they just came here to this room, and we just because they live about 10 minutes away, so we just rehearsed here. So we arrived in France and we were ready to play, and I knew what it would sound like as well.
Was that more enjoyable for that reason?
It's just it's a bit of a look. I
just
like playing with a
relief.
band, and I like the dynamic of a band. But I've always found it hard to sort of keep a band together.
Yeah, sure.
And because it's a big deal keeping a band together, and
it's a responsibility.
Yeah. And
the emotional kind of
there's no
trauma.
There's no emotion. I stay away
Stone
from that
killer.
day. I avoid that day.
Yeah.
And so you went to Mexico too, though?
Yeah.
I mean that was a while back now.
Yeah, well, that was February last year.
That was how did you get there?
Well, it's just these people approached me. They had a festival of outsiders, and for 5 years they've run that festival. And normally it's just been unlistenable techno, but outsider music. And they decided that this year they would try and change the focus, and they wanted more like songwriter things. So they just had two people, me and a Spanish woman, and they said, would you be willing to play with this phenomenal brass player, Mexican indigenous brass player from Mexico, from rural Mexico, who lives in Mexico City now, but Kunt Vargas, Kunt, and he was just astonishing musician. Wow. And I had my first rehearsal with him, and he said, I love all these lines, the horn lines, the hooks from the songs. And I said, you don't have to play them unless you want to. And I said, because your playing is so good, you can just do whatever you like. Yeah. It sounds great to me. And he said, no, I love the hooks. I'll mix it up. I'll have some hooks and I'll have some other things. And he had all these Mexican percussion instruments as well. Just phenomenal musician, phenomenal ear, just...
He improvised. Playing. He just listened, and that was it.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, he'd heard the songs and he'd worked out what he was going to do, but he could just I go ba 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 ba, and he'd go ba 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 ba.
Okay. Wow.
So
that sounds fantastic.
And so I did a solo show, and I also did a big outdoor show. They had this thing outdoors, and it was 500-600 people. I did that with him, and then I went over and I did this solo show, and that was supposed to be in this room that held 100 people, and Cynthia, the woman that was running it, said to me, we're not going to be able to fit all the people in, so can you play it on the steps, and we'll have everyone down in the garden and they can be outdoors and you can just play on the steps. And so they had a Steinway grand, so they brought that out for me to play. And it was just, and so I'm playing.
What was the building though, Pete? What was the building?
It's like a university building, but just immense. Immense. Stone building,
like
really
a pyramid.
High ceilings.
A pyramid.
It wasn't a pyramid, Dave. Other buildings are made out of stone. It was like a sandstone university building. But it was, and just this broad marble staircase, and so I played at the top of the stairs and the audience was down there, and so I just did a solo set like that as well.
Wow,
so
it looked
It
incredible.
was
the
mad.
Photos looked amazing.
Yeah, no, it was.
Oh, that's great.
So and they just said, whatever you want, we'll pay and provide, and and so I went over and did it like that. And on the way over, I played a show in San Francisco, and
great.
I got I had played there in 2016. I did a solo show. Dave, you still with us?
Yes. I'm just consumed with jealousy.
Yes. Sorry, Peter. Go on.
I played this bar, and we got in touch with them and said, look, I'm because you can't fly from Sydney to Mexico City, you have to go through the States. So I thought, well, okay, I'll go to San Francisco see if I can play a show on the way in. And so I did this show in San Francisco, and they got in touch after they'd said, yeah, look, because I'd played there in 2016, and they said, yeah, we'd love to have you back. Mark Eitzel from American Music Club has said that he'll open for you if you want him to. And that's great, because like American Music Club, about 1,000 times bigger than I would ever be. So that was brilliant, you know. So I did this show, which is just, you know, packed in San Francisco with Mark Eitzel opening. So yeah, and that was like none of this, you know, you could try to plan this and it wouldn't happen. So it was just, you know, you just throw yourself open to the sometimes benign indifference of the universe, and good things happen, bad things happen as well. But, you know, I regard myself as being very lucky.
Yeah. Oh,
Bravo,
great.
Peter Milton Walsh.
Yes, indeed.
I think we'll leave it on that uncanny note.